My sister stole my identity and maxed out 7 credit cards. Then my parents said, that's what family is for. So I moved states and did this with her wedding invitation. I woke up to 29 missed calls. I, female 30, just found out my sister Tanya, female 27, stole my identity and opened 7 freaking credit cards in my name, maxing them all out with like $43,000 in debt. And when I went to my parents for support, they basically told me to get over it because that's what family is for. I can't even. So a little background, I guess. I've always been the responsible one in my family. Like, always. I've worked as an accountant for the past 6 years, never missed a bill payment, and I've spent literal years building my credit score from nothing to 780 plus. Growing up, our family was basically a financial disaster. Dad couldn't keep a job because he'd fight with every boss. Mom worked on and off. We moved a lot because of evictions, etc. So I promised myself I'd never live that way as an adult. Meanwhile, my sister Tanya has bounced from job to job, maxed out her own credit cards multiple times, and still somehow remains the golden child who can do no wrong in my parents' eyes. I mean, I love her, but she's always been irresponsible with money and like everything else, to be honest. When we were kids sharing a bedroom, she would constantly borrow my clothes without asking and return them stained or stretched out, or sometimes not return them at all. I'd get mad, and my parents would say that sisters share, and I shouldn't be so selfish. This pattern has basically continued our whole lives. Like 3 years ago, Tanya called me crying about a medical emergency and needed $5,000 as soon as possible. I was worried sick and drained most of my emergency fund to help her. 2 weeks later, I'm scrolling through Instagram and see she's posting pics from a luxury vacation in Cancun with her friends. When I confronted her, she just laughed and told me she needed the vacation for her mental health, so it was a medical emergency. She never paid me back a single dollar, by the way, and I didn't even tell our parents because I knew they would somehow make it my fault for not helping family unconditionally. Anyway, I've been saving for a house since I graduated college. Like, this has been my dream. I finally had enough for a down payment and went to apply for a mortgage last week. I was so excited, you guys. This was a huge moment for me. The loan officer called me into his office with this weird look on his face and showed me my credit report. 7 credit cards had been opened in my name within the last 8 months, all maxed out. The charges were from bridal boutiques, catering companies, fancy restaurants, and high-end clothing stores. My credit score had dropped almost 200 points. I was so upset right there in his office. I knew immediately it was Tanya. She got engaged last year to this guy, Alex, who comes from money, and she's been planning this massive wedding. I'd been wondering how she was affording everything since she works part-time at a boutique and her fiancé is still finishing his MBA. But she kept saying Alex's parents were helping a lot. I should have known something was fishy. She's always been a liar. I drove straight to her apartment with printouts of all the credit card statements. I was literally shaking. I was so mad. When she opened the door, she could tell something was wrong because my face was bright red or whatever. She asked what was going on, and I showed her the statements and demanded she explain. She tried to play dumb at first and said someone must have stolen my identity. I pointed out that someone supposedly stole my identity and shopped at the exact bridal store we visited together in March. Her face just crumpled. She admitted taking the cards but swore she was going to pay it all back before I even noticed. I was literally screaming at this point, which is not like me at all. I'm usually the mature one who handles problems calmly. Like, I don't think I've yelled at anyone since high school. I demanded to know how she even got my information. She told me she stole some of my mail when she visited my apartment and found my social security card in our parents' childhood memory box. Who does that to their own sister? I told her I was filing a police report, and she started sobbing. She said it would ruin her relationship with Alex. Turns out, Alex has no idea about any of her financial issues. He thinks her parents are paying for most of the wedding. I asked if he even knows about the $43,000 of fraud she committed, and she just cried harder. I left telling her she had 24 hours to tell Alex herself, or I would contact him directly. I was so upset I had to pull over twice on the drive home, and almost got into an accident which would have been just perfect on top of everything else. The next day I went to my parents' house. Sure, they would support me. My dad, Wayne, and mom, Linda, have always favored Tanya, but this was criminal identity theft. Surely they would understand how serious this was. Nope, of course not. Why did I even expect anything different? I sat at their kitchen table and explained everything. Dad immediately said I shouldn't make such a big deal about it. Mom suggested we handle it within the family. When I pointed out that identity theft is a serious crime, Dad waved his hand dismissively and said that's what family is for, to help each other out. Mom then told me that Tanya's wedding is coming up and she needed the help. She said maybe if I was the one getting married first, I'd understand the pressure. I'm not even dating anyone right now, so that was a completely unnecessary dig. I asked why they didn't help her with wedding expenses if it was so important. They admitted they're already financially stretched from other wedding costs. Basically, they were fine with Me being the person Tanya stole from for her dream wedding. When I said I was still filing a police report, Dad stood up and said if I did, I'd be disowned. Mom started crying. She always does this when she doesn't get her way, and said I've always been jealous of Tanya. Side note, my mom still has Tanya's middle school dance trophies displayed prominently in the living room, but when I graduated with highest honors from college, she asked if I really needed to display my diploma on the wall when I moved back home briefly. That pretty much sums up my childhood. I filed the police report anyway. It was honestly the hardest thing I've ever done. The officer was really kind, but kept asking if I was sure I wanted to press charges against my own sister. I kept second-guessing myself the whole time, but I knew if I didn't do this, Tanya would never face consequences, and my credit would be ruined for years. I'm literally sick over this. Like my stomach hurts all the time and I can't sleep for more than a couple hours without waking up with anxiety. Tanya called me that night. She was hysterical, telling me I was dead inside for reporting my own sister to the police. That hurt especially bad because my college boyfriend once said almost the exact same thing when we broke up. He said I was emotionally unavailable and incapable of real love. Maybe they're right, and there is something wrong with me, but I don't think wanting basic respect is too much to ask. Anyway, I've decided I need distance from my toxic family. My best friend Krista lives in Colorado and has been begging me to move there for years. I just called her, and she said I can stay with her while I figure things out. I'm giving notice at my job tomorrow and will be leaving by the end of the month. I know this is impulsive, but I can't stay here. Every time my phone rings, I have a panic attack, thinking it's another family member calling to tell me what a terrible person I am. My cousin already texted me saying I'm tearing the family apart and should just help Tanya this one time. This one time. She's been taking from me our entire lives. I guess I'm done with my family. They've pushed me too far this time. Edit. Holy crap, this blew up. Thanks for all the support. To those asking for more details about the credit cards, they were opened gradually over 8 months, starting right after her engagement. The largest charges were for a wedding venue deposit, $12,000, a designer wedding dress, bridesmaids' gifts, and catering deposits. There were also random shopping sprees at Nordstrom and Sephora. Edit 2. A lot of people are asking if I've contacted a lawyer. Yes, I have a consultation next week. The police said this is unfortunately very common with family members and that I should also contact all 3 credit bureaus to put a fraud alert on my accounts, which I've done. And yes, I've frozen my credit now too. Too little, too late, I guess. Edit 3. To everyone saying I should tell Alex directly, I'm conflicted about this. On one hand, he deserves to know who he's marrying. On the other hand, I don't want to be accused of deliberately ruining her relationship out of spite. I'm going to give her the chance to come clean first, but honestly, at this point, I don't trust her to actually do it. Now for the first update. So a lot has happened since my last post. First, thank you to everyone who commented with support and advice. I'm typing this from Colorado, by the way, where I've been staying with my friend Krista for the past few months while looking for my own place, which is way harder than I expected. The rental market here is insane. The change of scenery has been good for me, I think. Like, I'm still stressed AF about everything, but at least I can breathe without feeling like I'm going to have a panic attack every 5 minutes. Krista has been amazing and hasn't complained once about me taking over her guest room with all my stuff. And I brought way too much stuff because I basically threw everything in my car in a panic when I left. So the credit stuff. Oh my freaking God, you guys. Trying to fix identity theft is a nightmare. I've spent literal hours on the phone with all these different credit agencies, filing disputes and sending documentation for all 7 cards. The people on the phone are actually pretty nice, but the system is just broken. Like, they keep asking for the same documents over and over and then saying they never received them. And one agency actually told me it could take up to a year to get everything sorted out. A year! My credit score is still in the toilet, which means I can't get approved for an apartment on my own yet. So I'm stuck with roommates for the foreseeable future. Thanks, Tanya. My family is, well, they're being exactly how I expected them to be. My mom, Linda, sends me these passive-aggressive texts like every other day. Here's an actual one from yesterday. When are you going to grow up and come home? Tanya has been crying herself to sleep every night because of what you did. Is that what you wanted? What I did? What about what she did? I haven't heard directly from my dad, Wayne, at all, but my mom keeps saying stuff like, your father says you're dead to him until you drop the charges. Whatever. This isn't exactly new behavior from him. When I was 12, he didn't speak to me for like 3 weeks because I accidentally broke his fishing rod. Anyway, Tanya is facing criminal charges for the identity theft, but my parents hired this expensive lawyer for her. Meanwhile, I'm over here using my savings to pay for credit monitoring and stuff because someone destroyed my finances. According to my cousin Penny, the only family member who still talks to me regularly, Tanya has been telling everyone that I actually gave her permission to use my identity, and now I'm stabbing her in the back because I'm jealous of her relationship with Alex. I'm not making this up. I had this whole conversation with Penny last week. She called to check how I was doing in Colorado, and I asked what people back home were saying. She was hesitant at first, but eventually told me that Tanya's been telling everyone I verbally agreed to let her use the cards for wedding expenses. Like, what? That never happened. Penny also told me the wedding plans are still moving forward for next month and that Alex only knows there's some family disagreement, but not the details. She admitted most of the family is siding with Tanya because she's the one getting married. Like, that excuse is crime. But a few days ago, I got this super elaborate wedding invitation in the mail from Tanya. I'm not kidding. This thing had gold embossing and like those little tissue paper inserts and everything. Must have cost a fortune, probably charged to my cards. She also sent me a text saying I'm still welcome at the wedding if I drop the charges, because family should be together for important moments. The audacity of this girl. Anyway, staring at this fancy invitation made me so angry all over again. Like, she's having this extravagant wedding, partly funded by stealing my identity, and her fiancé has no idea. I kept thinking about poor Alex, who has no clue who he's really marrying. And the more I thought about it, the more I felt like I needed to do something. So I did something. And I'm not sure if this makes me a terrible person or not. I stayed up super late one night and created this whole website documenting the identity theft. I uploaded scans of all the credit card statements, the police reports, screenshots of the threatening texts from my family, everything. I made this whole timeline showing exactly what happened and how it affected my credit score and destroyed my plans to buy a house. Then I created these custom QR code stickers that link directly to the website. I carefully opened all the RSVP envelopes that came with the invitation. There were like 8 of them for different events: rehearsal dinner, wedding, brunch, etc. I put the QR stickers on all the return envelopes and added a small note on each RSVP card saying, "For the full story of Tanya and Renee, scan here." I resealed everything so it looked untampered with. Thank God for my crafting phase last year. Wrote regretfully decline on my own RSVP, and then drove to a post office in the next town over to mail them all back. And now I'm waiting. I keep going back and forth between feeling guilty about potentially ruining her wedding and feeling like Alex deserves to know the truth before he marries someone who commits identity theft and fraud. Like, am I becoming as toxic as my family? But also, shouldn't he know who he's actually marrying? I know this will probably permanently destroy any chance of reconciliation with my family, but honestly, they chose Tanya over me a long time ago. It just took me 30 years to finally accept it. The wedding is scheduled for 3 weeks from now, and those invitations with the QR codes should be arriving to guests any day now. I guess I'll find out soon if I'm the villain in this story. Edit. So many people are asking if I feel bad about stooping to her level. Yeah, I do feel conflicted about it. I'm not normally a vengeful person, Ask anyone who knows me, I'm usually the peacemaker. But after years of being taken advantage of, and then getting blamed when I finally stand up for myself, I just snapped. Maybe it wasn't the most mature response, but after trying to handle things the right way and still getting treated like I'm the problem, I don't know what else to do. Edit 2. For those saying I should have just told Alex directly, I thought about it, but I don't have his contact info. Tanya has always kept him pretty separate from our family, red flag in hindsight. Plus, if I had reached out directly, she would have just told him I was lying out of jealousy. This way he gets to see the actual evidence for himself. Now for the second update. So it's been almost 3 weeks since I sent back those RSVP cards with the QR codes linking to my sister's identity theft evidence. A lot of you asked for an update when things went down, and well, things definitely went down. I honestly wasn't expecting everything to explode so quickly. Like, I figured there would be some fallout, but I wasn't prepared for the absolute meltdown that happened. So I had spent all day apartment hunting last Friday, which is basically a full-time job in Colorado. The rental market here is insane, and my credit is still trash thanks to Tanya. I was completely exhausted and crashed early, like 9 p.m. I turned my phone on silent because Krista and I had gone to see that new horror movie the night before, and I forgot to turn the ringer back on after. Anyway, I woke up the next morning and my phone was literally buzzing non-stop. I had 29 missed calls that came in overnight. Not exaggerating. 29 calls. 8 from my mom Linda, getting progressively more hysterical. 6 from my dad Wayne, threatening me in each one. 5 from Tanya, alternating between sobbing and screaming. 3 from Alex, Tanya's fiancé, who I've literally never spoken to before. 2 from people who I'm pretty sure were Alex's parents. 5 from various aunts, uncles, cousins. I sat there in bed staring at my phone like, holy shit, what happened? My heart was literally pounding. I almost thought someone had died with this many calls. I started listening to the voicemails to figure out what was going on. Apparently, one of Alex's aunts got the invitation, was curious about the QR code, and scanned it, and then immediately called Alex's parents. And then it just spread like wildfire through both families overnight while I was sleeping. My mom's messages started with confusion. Renee, what is this website Alex's family is talking about? And quickly escalated to full-on hysteria by the 8th message. How could you do this to your sister? Call me back right now. My dad's messages were just pure rage. Like the third one was literally just, you better lawyer up because we're suing you for defamation and sabotage. You've gone too far this time. Defamation requires the information to be false, Dad. Everything on that website was 100% documented truth. And Tanya's messages, God. The first one was her sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. By the 5th one, she was just screaming obscenities. Alex's messages were surprisingly calm compared to everyone else. He just said he needed to talk to me and asked if I could call him back. For a minute, I actually thought my parents were worried about Emmy. Like maybe they finally realized how serious the identity theft was and were concerned. But nope, they were just freaking out about Tanya's reputation being damaged. I decided to call Alex back first, since he seemed the most reasonable. I was nervous AF because we'd never spoken before, but I took a deep breath and called. He answered immediately, sounding completely exhausted. I could tell he hadn't slept. I just said something like, I guess you saw the website. And he was like, yeah, I've seen everything. He told me he'd spent the entire night talking with Tanya. I asked if she admitted to the identity theft. He said at first, she tried to claim I had created fake documents because I was jealous of their relationship. Classic Tanya. But when he pressed her about the police report details, she finally broke down and confessed everything. He told me he had absolutely no idea about their financial situation. Apparently, Tanya had told him her parents were wealthy and were paying for most of the wedding stuff. They are definitely not wealthy. My dad has been working the same warehouse job for like 20 years, and my mom only works part-time at a craft store. I apologize that he had to find out this way, which felt weird to say because I'm not actually sorry I exposed the truth. But I did feel bad he was caught in the crossfire. He actually thanked me. He said he needed to know before the wedding. Then he told me he'd already moved out of their apartment and the wedding was officially canceled. After I got off the phone with Alex, my phone started blowing up again. Tanya called like 17 times in a row until I finally answered. The second I answered, Tanya started screaming, like I had to hold the phone away from my ear. She called me every name in the book between these dramatic sobs. I just stayed quiet and let her go until she finally ran out of steam. Then she was like, "How could you do this to me?" I told her as calmly as I could that I didn't do anything to her. I just revealed what she did. There's a difference. She told me Alex called off the wedding and his parents want the engagement ring back. It was apparently a family ring worth like $30K. Yikes. I asked her if she ever planned to tell Alex the truth about the identity theft and credit cards. She just said, "I would have figured something out," which basically means no. Then I asked about repaying the credit card debt in my name. She completely broke down and admitted she never had any plan to pay it back. She was just hoping it would go away somehow. That's not how credit card debt works, like at all. She ended the call saying, "I hope you're happy now that you've ruined my life," and hung up on me. Over the next few days, I kept getting updates about the fallout through texts and social media. The wedding is definitely canceled, and Alex's family is apparently demanding Tanya's family pay them back for deposits they'd already made for the venue and catering, which is fair, to be honest. I also found out that Tanya's plea deal for the identity theft charges is now in jeopardy because the prosecutor discovered the additional lying about the wedding. I have mixed feelings about this. Like, on one hand, she should face consequences for what she did. But on the other hand, I don't want her to go to actual jail. She's still my sister, even though she's terrible. My relationship with my parents is basically destroyed at this point. My mom sends me these daily guilt trip texts like, "I didn't raise you to be so heartless," alternating with, "We can still be a family if you just apologize." Apologize for what exactly? My dad still refuses to speak to me directly, but at least he stopped threatening to sue me after Tanya's lawyer apparently told him he had no case. But then, something completely unexpected happened. I got an email from Alex's parents a few days ago. They thanked me for revealing the truth before their son married Tanya, and then they offered to pay off all the fraudulent credit card debt. All of it. I initially refused because it felt weird accepting money from strangers, but they were really insistent that it would give them peace of mind, knowing their son didn't marry someone who would commit fraud. They said they considered the money an investment in their son's future happiness, or something like that. After thinking about it for a couple days, I accepted their offer. The relief of having that financial burden lifted I can't even describe it. I literally cried for like an hour after the money was transferred. It means I can actually start rebuilding my credit and my life now. It's been about 3 weeks since everything exploded, and I'm slowly starting to feel like my life is moving forward. My immediate family still blames me for everything, of course, but I've actually reconnected with some extended family members who reached out to support me, especially my Aunt Jean, who told me she always saw through Tanya's manipulations, but never said anything to keep the peace, which is kind of messed up, but whatever. At least she's being honest now. I found my own apartment finally. It's tiny, and the kitchen appliances are from like 1992, but it's mine, and no one can take it from me. I also started therapy to deal with all this family stuff. Last session, I had this breakdown when I realized I don't actually miss my family as they are. I miss the family I always wished they could be. That hit me really hard. Weirdly, Alex messaged me yesterday saying he's coming to Colorado next month for a work thing and asked if I wanted to meet for coffee. I said yes. I think we both need some closure on this whole mess. I was unpacking some boxes yesterday and found this old family photo from when Tanya and I were kids. We were at the beach and actually looked happy together. For the first time, I looked at it and didn't feel sad. I just felt nothing, which is probably progress. I know my relationship with my immediate family might never be the same after this, but honestly, I feel lighter than I have in years. Like I've been carrying all this for my whole life, and now I finally put that burden down where it belongs, with her. Breaking free from my family's pattern of enabling and denial has been painful, but so necessary. I'm hopeful about building a healthier life for myself now. Thank you to everyone on Reddit who supported me through this insane journey. Sometimes the validation from strangers on the internet meant more to me than anything my actual family ever gave me. Edit. To everyone asking if I feel guilty about destroying my sister's wedding. Not really. I mean, she destroyed it herself by committing identity theft and fraud. I just exposed the truth. And honestly, After 30 years of being the family scapegoat while she got away with everything, it feels kind of vindicating to finally see her face actual consequences.